All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone attending our very first virtual AI Now Tour event that we're hosting live across the globe on LinkedIn Live to get all of you hands on with Data Cloud, with Prompt Builder, with Copilot, and all of the great new tools and features that we've been working on for you, admins, developers, architects here at Salesforce. I'm Stefan Chandler Garcia, and I work within our audience relations team to help bring you hands on content and inspirational visionary content around how you're building on Salesforce. Now, the AI Now Tour is a program that we've put together to go on the road and really get all of our technical audiences hands on with Data Cloud and with AI. And I first really want to thank every single one of you for coming and jumping on the stream today, taking time out of your day to come and learn with us and get hands on with these capabilities. I also want to say thank you to all of our technical helpers that we have on the stream today. So, through today's exercises, through the workshops, if you want to engage, if you have any questions, if you have any issues running through the workshops, please post any of your questions and interact in the chat, and we'll be able to help get back to you as soon as possible, as soon as we can, and make sure that you can get through these exercises with us. Now, today's agenda is going to take us through two core concepts around how we're starting to bring these capabilities into our technical workflows, into our Salesforce orgs and our environments. Number one, we're going to get started with an intro to Einstein 1 and take a look at how you should really be thinking about what Einstein 1 means to you as a builder and to as your company. And then we're going to get hands-on. Okay. We're going to run through three technical hands-on workshops where we're going to get hands-on and deploy and install Data Cloud. Okay. We're going to bring that data into Prompt Builder and understand how we can use prompts to ground generative AI with data inside of our CRM. And then we're going to get hands-on and deploy Einstein Copilot and look at how you can take the configuration you already know, things like flows, Apex, and bring them into Copilot to give it more skills and capabilities. But more on that later. Okay. I want to start off by getting everyone access to their environments before we get into the session. Okay. Everyone's going to follow this link. Okay. It will also be posted in the chat bit.ly/AI-data-virtual. From there, you're going to sign up for an environment. Okay. It's very important here that you sign up with the email that you registered with or your company email address so that you can get an org from this link. Okay. We've pre-validated it with the data that you submitted. Okay. So go ahead and follow that link and use this short code to ensure that you have access to your org. Okay. I'm going to give everyone a minute or two to start taking down this information. You can get signed up. And if you're eager, you can start the exercises during the first session. However, we are going to step through each of these one by one and work together through the content. Now, we do have to ask that you please don't share this content out with your friends. Okay, we have a limited number of environments for today. So ensure that if you signed up, if you're ready to go with the workshop now, sign up for an org and write down those credentials. Okay, it's very important. There is no way for us to go and fetch the org that you were assigned post the event. So make sure that you copy down that username and the password so that we can get started. Now, I'm going to go ahead and while everyone is signing up, make sure you grab these from the chat as well. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to our SVP of Trailblazer Relations, Christoph Conrad, who's going to join me on the line here and talk to us about the power of Einstein.
All right. Thank you so much, Stefan. And hello, everyone. It's totally awesome to see all of you in the chat and where you're all coming from. It's really super exciting. We have great content, and I know it's a hands-on workshop, so don't worry. I'm not going to be long, but we thought it would be really interesting to give you some context. Where are we today in this big shift in the industry? Why it's important and why it's exciting. So that is what I will do in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So let's get started. We are in an AI revolution. You know it, you feel it, I know it, I feel it. It's all over the places, all around us. And last year, we were really in wave 2, and it was really about these large language models able to generate content. And that was super exciting. We were all like, wow, ChatGPT, it was really an amazing shift. But now we are really entering wave 3 of that AI revolution. And that is because in addition to generating content, these large language models are also able to reason and orchestrate tasks. They can reason and orchestrate tasks. And that is an incredible change and a huge shift in the history, if you want, of software development. Because if you think about it, these are things that we used to do probably as developers. I know we have many developers in this meeting. You were responsible for orchestrating these tasks, and now your responsibility will shift a little bit, and you will build these very sophisticated building blocks that AI is going to be able to orchestrate. So that's a big shift. It's super exciting. But now let's see exactly how you build these applications. And we will start with consumer AI because we have all experienced it. We have all experienced that, right? So with consumer AI, it starts obviously with some kind of a UI. And that UI is typically very conversational. Mostly it's a prompt, and you have all seen it, you have all experienced it in ChatGPT, Gemini, or something else, right? Conversational. And then you have models. You have tons of models available there. And these models are trained on data. And for consumer AI, the models are trained on public data, which really means the internet. And the reason I put public in quotes here is because there are a lot of issues right now around IP. Is it really fair? Is it okay to train a model on content that's available out there on the internet and that maybe is protected by some IP? But that is beyond the scope of this session, because what we are going to do is focus on enterprise AI. So how does this model translate to enterprise AI? Well, we still have a UI, and it becomes also increasingly conversational in the enterprise. You're starting to see prompts popping up in enterprise applications, or you're starting to see new ways to interact with your data. You just ask in a conversational way. So that really remains the same. You still have model, you still have these foundation models. But what about data? If you're building an enterprise application, you don't need that public data. You need your customer data in addition to that. And to get good AI, you really need good data, and you need a lot of it, all your company data if possible. But the reality is that you don't have that today. The reality is that many of you, probably all of you, have islands of isolated data. Maybe you have data in CRM, maybe you have data in Snowflake, in Google Cloud, in AWS. You have data everywhere, islands of isolated data. So that is a real challenge to generate good AI. So are we ready? Is the enterprise ready for AI? Well, we have challenges to address. And siloed data that we just discussed was one example of that. But we also have to think about security. For example, if you were to train your own model, what would happen to user permissions and sharing models? Who can do what? All the things that today, if you use a database, a traditional database, you spend a lot of time fine-tuning that. But if you put your data, if you train a model, then it becomes available to everyone. And is that okay? Then we need to think about toxicity. We need to think about hallucinations. So they are challenges. And these challenges are exactly why we built the Einstein One platform to address all these challenges. And the Einstein One platform is really the platform for enterprise AI. So first, it's going to bring all your data together with Data Cloud that you need for good AI. And then it is smart, it is powered by AI with Einstein so that you can build these next generation AI applications. But the Einstein One platform is also open, and it covers the full spectrum of development options, from no-code tools to code through APIs and other options that you are actually going to experience today. But I can tell that this audience, I'm keeping an eye on the chat, and I can tell that this audience is fairly technical. So we're going to double click and take a quick peek exactly at how it works. And we're going to start with Data Cloud. So how does Data Cloud work? Well, first of all, we need to connect all your data. And depending on the size of your company, you may have, just a few disconnected data sources, or you may have hundreds of different data sources that you need to connect. Like, for example, you may have John Smith here in CRM in Sales Cloud, and you have John Smith, in Snowflake, for example. Well, you need to bring all that together in a single object, and that's huge. Connecting all your data like that is huge, but it's not enough. Next, you need to harmonize your data. Now, what does that mean? Well, I need to know whether that John Smith in Sales Cloud is actually the same as John Smith in Snowflake. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. So that's what it means to harmonize your data. And if it is the same individual, then I'm going to merge these two records in a single record. And now I really have a single view of that individual. And when I have that single view of the individual, then I can really activate my data in CRM, because I know it is the same person and I have all the information relating to that person that I can activate in CRM. And one of the things that you can do with unified data is to really create good AI with Einstein. So how does that work? Well, as I mentioned before, it kind of starts with a prompt, and it's a prompt that you either type, or maybe that's behind a button in some kind of a user interface. Okay, and here is where we're going to be a little different. The reality is that you don't always have to train your own model to get good outcomes. In fact, in many use cases, you are going to get better results without training your own model using RAG, or retrieval augmented generation. And how does that work? Well, we're going to get that prompt, and then we're going to search for all the data that is relevant to the request. All the data and all the metadata. Now, where are we going to go find the relevant data? I think hopefully you guessed it. We're going to go find the relevant and unified data in Data Cloud. And we're going to augment that prompt, meaning that we're going to add to the prompt all the relevant data to provide a solution to the request. All right. And it is that augmented prompt that we're going to send to the LLM using the secure gateway, which is going to take care of data security and data privacy using data masking and other techniques. Now, it's worth mentioning, I'm looking at the right side of that slide, that we have all these models, and it looks like every day there is a new model, and it's smarter and it's faster, it's better. And in this world, it's really hard to commit to a single model. Maybe if you commit to a single model, is it still going to be the most relevant model tomorrow? And so one of the things that the Einstein One platform does is to abstract these models. So they are your application, your experience, your AI solution is decoupled from a specific model. So if tomorrow there was a new model that you think is better to solve, the problem that you're trying to solve, with a few clicks in the AI tools, you can totally change the model that is going to be powering that solution. Okay, so the model has your augmented prompt. It's going to figure out the solution, and then it's going to send that solution back to the user. And of course, we're going to check for toxicity, we're going to check for hallucinations, and at the end, you get the response that you want. And that, in a nutshell, is how you build these next generation AI applications with the Einstein One platform. Unified data, and then good AI built on good data. But of course, the best way to really learn how it works is to experience it. And so with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Stefan to get you started on the hands-on section of this workshop. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Christoph. I just want to double down on what Christoph said there and actually take it back a second. We talk about data cloud and this brand new way of bringing, connecting, harmonizing, activating data in CRM. We talk about how we're taking that data and we're bringing generative AI into that framework. But just to go back to the Einstein One platform again for a second, this is using the tools that you know and love already inside of that metadata framework. When we talk about things like page layouts, flow, okay, all of those capabilities, the same user interface, we're rolling all of these tools into what you know and love and what you're used to building on with Salesforce already. And that's what you're going to notice through the workshop today is that we're going to be using familiar patterns, capabilities. We're going to be in and out of Salesforce setup, in and out of Data Cloud, CRM, and it's all going to come together inside of that single application and show you how it's actually not as inaccessible as it may seem to you as someone who's already familiar with Salesforce. Now, I've seen quite a few in the chat already grabbing your environments. Okay, I'm just going to put the screen up one more time. Okay, you can sign up for an org, okay, at this URL, bit.ly/AI-data. Okay, and you have to add in this code. Okay, it is case sensitive. So for best results, copy it from the chat. Okay, or you can take a screenshot of this, however you need. This is how you're going to get your org. Okay, that sign up form will also take you to the documentation. Okay, and in that documentation is what we're going to be working through today. After we go through a couple of slides around the exercises and Data Cloud specifically, we're going to go through and I'll orientate you to the org and to the docs, and we'll get started working. So please, if you need this link, if you need the code, check the chat. We've got loads of the team in there selling it and sorting out your issues. Now, if you're here on LinkedIn Live, okay, you are in the right place. Okay, there is no Zoom meeting that should have been associated to this. We're looking into that at the moment, and we'll come back to you with a resolution shortly. But if you are on LinkedIn, this is the right place for the workshop. Now, when it comes to Data Cloud, as Christoph just said, bringing all of that data together is essential for your business. I'm sure every single one of you on the stream, myself included, can think of a data set, if not 10, that I would love to have inside of CRM, inside of Sales Cloud, inside of Service Cloud. And a lot of companies have edge cases where they have these really crucial data sets to their business. However, the cost to maintain and support implementation of direct integration to some of those data points may be too time consuming. It may not be cost effective, but could have an impact that's still unrealized on the work that you're doing inside of CRM. And our use case today will really highlight that. And what we're going to be focusing on is that sort of three-phased process within Data Cloud around number one, connecting data from third-party systems. Okay, harmonizing that and trying to create a single identity, a single profile for someone so that you can identify who someone is within multiple systems and teach you how to, most importantly, activate that. Okay, there's no reason to bring this data together unless it's going to be really useful for your business. And so I want to show you, and in this workshop around Data Cloud, how we go from that connecting phase all the way through to surfacing that data inside of CRM and activating it. Now, we're going to be focusing on Coral Cloud Resorts. Okay, they're a fictional resort that we've created in Hawaii. Okay, like most companies who are using CRM, they're going to be storing things like contacts and accounts, cases inside of Salesforce. Okay, we also have a couple of custom objects that we're tracking around their experiences when they visit the resort, like snorkeling, scuba diving, beach trips. Okay, those are the types of things that a hotel or resort may be storing inside of CRM. But what you will find with most hotel chains is that all of their reservation, their booking data are stored in third party bespoke systems for hotel and reservation management. And so a lot of times we will see customers of ours who manage hotels and use Salesforce always have two different screens open. Okay, in one window, they'll have their booking system open and their reservation management system. And in another tab on their computer, they'll have CRM for case management, for managing their customers and their experiences. And what we want to do today is try and unify that data so that anyone who's accessing those records in CRM have the full picture of the guest information from that third-party system available to them. Now, This manifests itself through Amazon S3 and Data Cloud. Okay, we're going to take those reservations from Amazon, okay, and we want to bring them through Data Cloud into Salesforce. Okay, and we're going to go through in detail how that happens in a couple of minutes. But what we want to know is we're going to take the reservation data that's hosted in Amazon S3, we're going to bring it into Data Cloud, we're going to create a unified identity for this person, and we're going to bring that into Salesforce. Okay, that is that connection that we talked about in Data Cloud. So we're going to connect the data from S3. Okay, we're going to unify it in Data Cloud, and we're going to expose it through into Salesforce so that we can activate it. Okay, so on that note, let's go ahead and move over into the hands-on portion of the exercise. Okay, so if you have signed up for an environment, okay, you will have been presented the screen with your username and with your password. Okay, like I said earlier, please write this down. And so if anyone is in the chat still hasn't received their org, scroll through the messages, you will see the code that you need to sign up for this environment. Okay, make sure you copy your username and log in. Okay, you will also see that the hands-on instructions are linked directly here. However, you can also get that link from the chat, okay, and from the documentation, that screenshot we shared earlier. Okay, what I want to show you first before we log in is the documentation. Okay, what you're going to see here is 3 workshops, one for Data Cloud, one for Prompt Builder, and one for Copilot. Okay, we're going to work through these sequentially through the morning so that we can get through all of the steps. Okay, inside of each workshop, you're going to see a series of exercises, some marked optional. Okay, we're not going to be running through every single one of these today. Okay, we're going to do a subset of each exercise in each workshop for you to get acquainted, and you're able to take your orgs home with you. Okay, so you will have 5 days with these environments to either create your own configuration, test out some new features that maybe we didn't cover in the workshop, and continue working through some of those additional exercises that go just a layer deeper into Data Cloud and AI. Okay, and then we have our org. Okay, because we're going to be going back and forth between our documentation and our environment today, I'm going to suggest that everyone utilize this in tabs. Okay, I find it best to manage the documentation and configuration by having the documentation in the first tab of my browser window, and then the org here on the next tab over. Okay, this will be available. The documentation will still be available to you post this exercise. So if you fall behind, if you need a little bit of help, I'm going to try and walk through all of these with you today and put in some pauses around some of the content that may get a little bit sticky. But if you fall behind, don't worry. Ask questions in the chat, and you have this workbook so you can continue to work through the content at your own pace after the session. Okay, now this exercise and this workshop are going to be going back and forth between the Salesforce org and setup. Now, if you've never used Data Cloud before, what you're going to notice here is there is actually a separate setup for Data Cloud. Okay, so be very mindful when we're running through the exercises that when we're going into Data Cloud setup, we're going into the right place. When we're going into Salesforce setup, we're going into the right place. Now, from the content, the first thing we want to do is actually take a little bit of a shortcut. Okay, you will see here in the documentation, the data model is available for you to go back and reference. And we're going to get started with exercise 1. Okay, and the very first thing we're going to do here is cut a few corners to get through this Data Cloud setup in under 2 hours. Okay, this whole Data Cloud exercise usually takes us about 90 minutes on its own, but this is going to help us accelerate that a little bit and get through some of this. What we have here in step 1 is what's called a data kit. Okay, everyone can go through and copy the link to this data kit. Okay, if you've never installed a package into Salesforce before, okay, we're installing configuration into the environment. We're going to copy this link and open up our Salesforce tab here. Okay, and at the very end of this URL after force.com, okay, we're going to paste in that packaging link. So it should be lightning.force.com/packaging and press enter. Okay, this is a new type of managed package called a data kit. Okay, we're going to keep all of the default values here, and keep it available for admins to install. And we're going to click install. Okay. A data kit is a package for data cloud configuration, separate from a managed or unmanaged package that you would be building for Salesforce or CRM configuration. Okay. This contains data cloud specific features that we're going to go through in a minute before explaining them, but all kind of call out through the exercise what is part of the data kit and what's part of configuration that you're creating yourself and how you can go through. It's worth noting, I know some of you on the call have already attended the AI Now workshops, the full day experience, okay? In that experience, you do go through all of the configuration manually. So if anyone has the opportunity to attend one of those, it's still very important to get that information. But this will at least give you some insight into how it all works. Okay, once that install is complete, okay, it's going to drop you on this installed packages page where you can see here we have that Coral Clouds Accelerator package installed. Okay, that's really all we need to do with the package now that it's up and running. What I want us to do is actually go back into Salesforce. Now, if you're new to configuring within Salesforce, okay, I'm also going to be referencing the app launcher quite a bit. The app launcher is this icon here at the top left-hand side of your screen, this waffle. And this allows you to navigate back and around inside of Salesforce apps. Okay, and in this, we're going to open the Data Cloud app. Okay, this is where all of the Data Cloud core application configuration is going to be happening. It's not going to be happening in Data Cloud Setup. Data Cloud Setup is going to be more where you're setting up connectors and preferences around Data Cloud. The actual configuration from Data Cloud is going to be happening in the Data Cloud app through the app launcher. Okay, and it's all going to start with data streams. Okay, data streams are where you're going to make and configure the connection between Data Cloud and other systems. Okay, it may be a Salesforce org, it may be a third-party system, but what you're going to do is set up a data stream. And a data stream is what's going to control the connection and the refresh between those data sets. And we're going to start out by clicking on New. Okay, we're going to create a new data stream. And the first thing we want to do is create a connection to our CRM and bring in that data from CRM. Now, we're in step 2 of exercise 1 in the Data Cloud exercises. Okay, so when you click on New Data Stream, you're presented with a list of data streams. I'm sure if you've seen this in a demo, if you've seen an example of this, sometimes you will see many connectors here. Okay, these connectors show up based on the connections you have in your org. So until you've actually made those connections, you won't see the connectors. And we're going to start out by connecting Salesforce CRM. Okay, we want to take our contact records in Salesforce and we want to bring them into Data Cloud so that we can use them to match up against the data from the third-party system. We're going to do that by clicking Next. And we're going to start out with some pre-built data bundles that exist within Data Cloud. Now, there's already pre-built configuration for Sales Cloud, for Service Cloud, for digital engagement, or you can select all objects and just bring over objects from CRM directly if you want to do it one by one. But what we're going to bring over is the data bundle that we already built inside of the package, because it's going to take a couple of shortcuts for us here. So I want everyone to click on this Salesforce Contacts Data Bundle. Okay, we're going to click the data bundle and then click Next. Okay, this already has all of the configuration we need. Okay, it's already selected the fields that we want to bring over. So we can see what fields. If you wanted to modify these, you can. If you were creating this data stream from scratch, you would be selecting the fields. But we've already pre-selected the fields that we need here. Okay, and you're going to go ahead and click Next. You're going to notice a lot of times we're going to leave the defaults in the workshop today. And you can see here, it's going to create the contact home data stream for us. Okay, and then we can deploy it. Okay, what that's going to do is do all of the setup backend that Data Cloud needs to sync the data from CRM into your org. And so that will take sometimes 20, 30 seconds to deploy. And we're going to go and check out all of the configuration that it's building for us here. But once again, I've got to reiterate back to that diagram, okay? The first thing we're going to do is take our contacts from CRM and bring them into Data Cloud so that we have access to all of the contacts that are coming in from Salesforce. Now, what we then are going to want to do next, once the stream has been created, is we're going to want to deploy the streams from Amazon and from the guests from Amazon, the reservations from Amazon. But so you can see here, we have our data stream that's been created. Okay, it's set to ingest and it has not been run yet. What this means is that on a schedule that we set within the configuration, it's going to go to CRM and either upsert all of the contacts or just bring them over incrementally. In this case, okay, I want everyone to click on the action button on the right-hand side of this table here. Okay, and we need to refresh this. Okay, we've just created the data stream and we want to force a refresh so that we can start queuing and getting that data in. Bear in mind, this does take some time. And so there will be a few places today where we pause, we move on while the data syncs over and continue to work. Okay, because this does take time. We're talking about large data volumes in some cases here. For the example today, we're working with about 1,000 different people. So while that is running, okay, we're actually going to go ahead and move on to view what's been created inside of Data Cloud. And I want to start out with the data lake object. So the data stream itself, okay, the data stream is there to make the connection and set the processing schedule and the batches. Okay, all of the data is actually going into data lake objects. Okay, and you can see here a contact home data lake object has been created. Now, the reason that this is called the home contact data lake object is because this is our home org. For some companies who are using multiple Salesforce orgs, you may have a home org and you may have a companion org. Your home org is where Data Cloud is installed and where all of the core Data Cloud configuration is coming from. If we had contacts coming in from another org, it would be called contact underscore and the org ID so that we know that it's coming from a separate environment and where it's coming from. But in this case, it's the home table because this is the org that Data Cloud is running in. Okay, we can click on this data lake object and you will see this is a table, okay, that has access to all of the fields. It's been configured with all of the fields that we imported inside of that bundle. And there's also a set of data mappings. Okay, the data mappings are what we're going to use to take this data lake object and map it to the data model within Data Cloud. Now, this is really important and sometimes kind of hard to get your head around. Okay, we're not going to have a standard contact data model inside of Data Cloud. We're not going to have a contact data model for each of our orgs. We want to take this CRM data, these contacts, okay, and we're going to map them to a unified object model for managing people within Data Cloud. And if we click on review, I'm going to go through that a little bit. So what you're going to see here is what we have is our contact data lake object here. Okay, on the left-hand side, you're going to see all of those fields that we imported into that DLO. Okay, on the right-hand side, you're going to see the data model entities that we have inside of our org that relate to people. This is a unified structure for storing people and their contact and personal information inside of Data Cloud. So what you're going to see here is we have our account contact here. Okay, we have our contact point address for storing a person's address information. We have a contact point email for storing their email address. I mean, I have 10 email addresses. Think about your customers, okay? It gives us a way to store this personal information about someone in a way that's not strictly one-to-one on a single record, okay? It gives us a much better way of managing high volumes of data and a large volume of customers. We have our contact point phone for storing different phone numbers. And the most important part of this is we have our individual, okay? We're going to talk about individuals a lot in the workshop today, okay? Individuals are a unique representation of a person's identity, okay? We are mapping our people, our first name, our last name, our core identifiers to that individual, okay? We're going to be coming back to this a lot. In fact, we're going to do it in a second with the S3 data. But I want you to just sort of try and conceptualize the fact that we're talking about a single person's data, a single contact record in Salesforce, breaking out into multiple objects within Data Cloud. And so when we look at those objects in Data Cloud, you're not going to see a contact, okay? You're going to see an individual, you're going to see an email address, you're going to see a phone number, you're going to see an address, okay? You're not going to see a contact as we know it in CRM because data doesn't always take that shape. Okay, so hopefully you can understand a little bit more about that mapping and how that comes through. We've got our CRM contact being mapped, streamed into the data lake object. That data lake object is then being mapped through to the data model entities here, which are our address, our email, our individual, etc., within Data Cloud. So now, what happens when we want to introduce third-party data to this? Okay, if we're bringing over data from AWS, it's not going to have the same structure as the data within Salesforce in our contact record. Okay, and what we're going to do is go into Data Cloud Setup, and we're going to make a connection to AWS. So just to refresh ourselves from a documentation perspective, we've now finished exercise 1. We're going to jump into exercise 2 to create a connection to Amazon S3. Okay, and to do this, like I said, we're going to go into Data Cloud Setup. Now I'm going to try and take my time here, but remember, if you do fall behind a little bit here, if you have any issues, post it in the chat. The documentation is available for you to continue the workshop after the event. Okay. Now, this is our first time in Data Cloud Setup, and what you're going to see here are a number of tabs around configuration of your connectors within Data Cloud. And you can see here we can connect to Marketing Cloud, to CRM, to your web and mobile apps. You can create custom APIs for ingesting data, but we're going to click on this Connectors tab here and take a look at the pre-built connectors that we have available to us inside of Data Cloud. And we're going to create a new connection. And so you can see here, by default, we have access to loads of Amazon services, to Databricks, to Google Cloud Storage. You can even connect to your own SFTP servers to bring data into Data Cloud. But in this case, Coral Clouds uses Amazon S3. Okay, so I'd like everyone to select Amazon S3 as their connector and press Next. Now, in the documentation, okay, you will see here we have the fields and values that we need to integrate with Amazon S3. Okay, so I'm going to give everyone a minute. I'm going to do it myself as well. Go ahead and copy the values from this connection and paste them into the connectors. And I may talk over it a little bit, just in case you want a little bit more context. Up until recently, you could only bring your own keys and secrets into this, but now you can actually use identity providers in Salesforce to make this connection, which may make it easier if you have multiple connections, if you have connections that you want to use across the business to integrate with your systems like AWS. In this case, we're going to use that key and secret-based approach and paste over the keys from the documentation directly into the setup screen here. Okay, and the S3 bucket is going to be called Coral Cloud. Now, if you're not familiar with Amazon S3, okay, it is a service that Amazon provides through AWS that allow you to create buckets of files or documents that you can then share. What we're doing here is authenticating to that bucket using the key and secret, and we're giving that bucket a name so it knows where to point us when we're going to grab files to configure. And what this is going to let us do is grab CSVs off of that bucket in AWS and pull them into Data Cloud. Now, I'd like everyone to just test their connection to make sure it works, okay? And the connection should be then well established here. And we can then move on into here. Perfect. So I'm going to give everyone just a second to go through and make sure we get caught up here onto this connector. Okay, we really want to make sure that we have this connection made here within Amazon S3 so that we can create this. Now, can I get a quick show of hands in the chat? Give us a thumbs up, give us a message. Let us know where we're at in creating this source here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and then save this connection. Okay, what you will see here is we have the new connection inside of Coral Clouds here. Okay, this is our direct connection from Data Cloud into AWS that we can then use to bring files through. Okay, once you have this connection made, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go back into Data Cloud. Okay, we may have a tab open, but just in case, let's go ahead and go into the app launcher. Okay, so everyone open up the app launcher and then go into your Data Cloud app. Okay, that's going to take us back here into our Data Cloud home screen. Now in the documentation, okay, we're now done with exercise 2. We can then move on to exercise 3 and ingest that guest data from Amazon S3. And to do that, we're going to go into data streams. So in our data streams window, what you're going to see is we have our Salesforce connector. Okay, it's still syncing, so we're waiting on that to sync still. We're going to go ahead and create our new connection here into Amazon. Okay, and so once again, you're going to click on create a new data stream. And you'll see here, we now have our Amazon S3 connector available to us, but we're not going to click this. Okay, we're actually going to be installing from our data kit. So I'd like everyone to make sure we get to this new data stream screen and click on installed data kits and packages. And from here, we can click on next. And so what you're going to see here is in the same sense as we were talking about before. This is pre-configured based on that package. You can go through and do all of this mapping yourself. However, for timing purposes today, we have pre-configured a lot of this. Okay, and we're going to click on the guest data stream first. Okay, we want to bring over the guest data first from Amazon. Okay, so all you're going to do is select that guest checkbox. And then click on next. Okay, we're going to be keeping the default values for everything, but I just want to point out some stuff to you here. Okay, so what you're going to see here is we have our name is based on that connection we just created a minute ago. Okay, the file type is defaulted. We've got a CSV here. And then you can see here, we're pointing to a CSV. We've got our Coral Cloud Guests CSV that we're pointing to. So we're going to be taking that CSV from Amazon S3 and bring it over into our org into Data Cloud. And we're going to click on next. And from there, once again, we're not going to change anything. Okay. I just want everyone to go through and look here down at the fields that are coming through. Okay. We have our last name, phone number, guest ID, email address, data source, date of birth. All of these are guest fields that don't exist necessarily on our contacts. Some do, but they're in a different shape, different size, different form. The API names are different. This data is not data from CRM. This is from our reservation management system. You're going to go ahead and click on next. You'll see here it's going to give our guest data stream a name. Okay. The category of this data stream is a profile because it's information about a person and we're using it to build up their profile. And then it's going to upsert every time that the data is refreshed in that CSV. Okay, once we get to this stage, we're going to click deploy. So just to reiterate for anyone who's working on this still, I know some of us are going back and forth between the screen, the documentation, LinkedIn, our org. So bear with me. Okay, we're going to create a new data stream. We're going to select the data kit. Okay, and we're just going to leave all of the default values going through. And then we're going to click on deploy. And what that's going to do is do the same thing that it did for all of those contact records. Okay, it's going to create that data lake object. It's going to create the mapping for us here. And what you'll see here is it's going through. It's just started to process that data stream. Okay, and I'm going to give everyone just a minute to go through and create that. Bear in mind, remember, it should, if you're clicking the guests first, okay, make sure you're clicking guests in that. So just to reiterate, so I see a couple of questions coming through. We click on install data kits. Make sure you're only selecting guest. Okay, we're not selecting all of them. If we click on reservations first, that's fine. We will just have to go back to guests and do guests the next time. Okay. So if you have, I see a couple of people in the chat who have gone through and done reservations first. That's fine. Just make sure in the next step we do guests, but don't do it right away. It's very important that we at least refresh the page before trying to create another screen. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same. Okay. Make sure that we then go through on our guest data stream. Okay, and click on refresh now. Okay, and in this case, let's go ahead and refresh all of the files. Okay, we want to take the CSV and just refresh it into Data Cloud. Now I see a couple of people coming through in the chat. Make sure that when you click this new button and install from the data kit, okay, you're clicking on guest. Once you've created that one, it's really important to refresh the page. There is some caching that happens on the back end when creating the data stream. So make sure that once you've created the stream, do a refresh there. Okay, in the same sense, we've got a couple of people talking about that engagement type coming through. You can see here, it's picked the one that we don't have. It's really important to refresh the page in between creating the guest and the reservation. Okay, but we're going to go back onto that in a minute. Okay. I'm going to give everyone a couple of seconds here to catch up on this exercise. Okay, we are going to go back and do reservation in a minute, okay? But we will as well go in and explore the guests too. Okay, so before we move on to creating the second data stream, remember we're just creating guests right now. Okay, I want to go into the guest data stream here, okay, and go into this data mapping. Okay, just to show you that what we've done in the package is the exact same thing that we did within our contact object in CRM. Okay, we've taken that guest from the third-party system here, okay, and we've mapped that over to contact point email, and we've mapped that to individual. Okay, we want to take the guest from AWS and sync that data in the exact same way that we're doing the contact in CRM. So you can see here we have that guest first name, the surname, their ID that we're using as an identifier. Okay, and we're bringing this over into our data lake object here, into our data model here. So we've got our contact point email and we have our individual. Okay, we're taking that data and we're bringing it right over here. Okay, that's all we're doing here, okay, into these new objects. Okay, once that's been done, okay, we're just checking that out. We don't have to do anything. It's all saved, it's all deployed and ready to go for you. We can go back over into our data streams tab. And like I said, it's really important that before we create that second data stream, we do have to refresh the page because there is some caching that's happening on the back end there when we're creating multiple streams from that same type. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and click on new. Okay, again, you're going to select installed data kits and packages. Okay, we're not selecting S3 here. Okay, and we're going to click next. And in this case, we're clicking on reservation only. Okay, click on reservation here as that data bundle item. Okay, and you're going to see here, it's pointing now to the hotel reservations CSV instead of the hotel guests that it was coming first. And then again, we're just going to keep all of the default values here. Okay, everything's staying exactly the same. You can see here, this reservation is bringing over things like the check-in date, the checkout date, the room type, the room number, and bringing that all into this data stream. Okay, and we can click next to deploy it. Okay, an engagement type, okay, here allows you to track data that is related to those individuals. So if we have people that are coming in who are also attached to activities, in this case, like a reservation, it's going to be associated as an engagement type of data. And we can click on deploy. Okay, what this is doing is bringing over those reservations now as well into our data cloud instance. Okay, it's going to create that data lake object. It's going to create that mapping in the exact same way. So in theory, we've just done the same thing 3 times. The first one from CRM to bring our contacts over, the second one from S3 to bring the guests over, and the third one to bring the reservations over. Now, this is new to a lot of us. The first time that I worked on bringing over data into Data Cloud, it was so confusing, so complicated, because it's such a foreign process to the way that I'm used to working in Salesforce as a Salesforce developer. So if you are falling behind, if you're hitting some issues here, please take your time. Remember, you have these exercises to keep working on through the day, and try and take in as much information from what we're teaching today, as well as working through the exercises. Okay, but again, continue to ask questions. I'll try and continue to support and comment based on what I'm seeing here, as well as everyone who's in LinkedIn and on the chat helping out. Okay, with our reservation data set here, we want to go ahead and also refresh this one as well. So we're going to click on refresh now. We're going to refresh all the files there to bring that data over. And that's going to go through and queue these. Now, if everyone refreshes their table, you should start to see that data being processed. You can see here we've processed the data from the guests, we've processed the data from CRM. Now, we're going to move on now to exercise 5, and I'm going to talk about why in just a minute. So we've just finished exercise 3, we've just finished exercise 4. Okay, and while everyone continues to work through those, I'm going to show you something here around how we can see the difference between these data sets. Okay, don't worry about following along here. Okay, continue working on bringing over those data streams if you need to. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and solve this in just a minute. But I want to go into what is called inside of here inside of Data Cloud, and that is the Data Explorer. Okay, the Data Explorer is where you can select your objects and your object types. In this case, we're going to select our data model object. Okay, we want to go in, and I want to show you what that individual looks like. So we just mapped our contacts to individuals. Okay, we just went and saw the mapping of our guests in S3 to individuals. Okay, and now I want to show you how that comes up inside of the Data Explorer. And to do that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to edit some of the columns here. I'm going to clear out some of this data so that you can see a bit clearer what's going on here. Okay, so we've got the first name, last name, and then let's go ahead and bring over, that's good there. We've got data source object, first name and last name here. Okay, and I'm going to filter this just to show a specific person. Okay, and I'm going to filter on the first name of Sophia. Okay, we have a contact in this org that we're going to be focusing on today called Sophia. And what you see here is we have Sophia Rodriguez here in our individual object twice. Okay, you can see here we have Sophia coming from the Coral Clouds CSV in AWS. Again, we have that same Sophia coming from a contact record in CRM. Okay, this doesn't really unify any of the data for us, right? We talked about how a big part of Data Cloud is taking the data from those multiple systems and unifying them for us. Okay, we need to be able to take this and identify Sophia as a single person so that we can take data like the reservations that we just brought over from Amazon S3 and bring it into AWS. Now, if we take a look at what these relationships look like, we really need to get down to a single individual to be able to identify that. Because right now, we know that this Sophia that comes from S3 probably has reservations associated to them based on that data. But the contact in CRM won't, because there is no direct connection from this contact in Salesforce to the contact Sophia that we have inside of Amazon. And so if we go then into our data model here, I'm just going to show you, okay, we have all of the data model objects that we've been working with. We also have a data model object that we've created custom for reservation. We can click on this table view here to, instead of display it as a list, display this as a graph to see those identifications. And so here you can see we have our individual here that we've been mapping to inside of Data Cloud. Okay, and we also have our reservation here that's coming over from Amazon into that new data model object. What we need to do is be able to take this reservation and surface it inside of CRM so that we can take action on it and get down to a single unified person. And to do that, we're going to use a capability in Data Cloud called identity resolution. Okay, identity resolution is a method of taking and writing rules that we can use inside of Data Cloud to unify a single person. Okay, and in this, we can create a new identity resolution rule. Now, a rule set is simple. It takes matching criteria, okay, and allows you to unify people and individuals inside of Data Cloud based off of that criteria. Think of it like data deduplication notification in CRM, but on steroids because of the amount of custom criteria and the scale in which it runs. Now, when we click on Next, we're going to select a primary data model object for this rule set, and that's, of course, going to be individual, okay? And then we have to give the rule set an ID, okay? We're going to call it CCID, okay? Just a single unique identifier for this individual that we're going to unify. In this case, it just stands for Coral Cloud's ID. Now, over in the documentation, okay, remember I said we're on the unified profile exercise, and we're actually down at step 2, okay? Create an identity resolution rule set. Okay, you'll be able to follow this guide to create that rule set, but for the time being, I'm just going to walk you through and show you what this looks like. And so, like I said, I'm going to give everyone a minute to get back to this screen. Okay, so once you've selected that individual as your primary data model object and you've given it an ID, you can click on Next. Okay, we need to give our rule set a name, so the rules that we're going to be using here. Okay, and over in the documentation, we're going to just call this guest name and email. Okay, we're just going to be matching guest names and emails with contact names and email addresses in CRM. One thing that's really important here is that we select run jobs automatically and set that to false. Okay, you may have to click around a little bit like I just did, but we want to make sure that this run jobs automatically is disabled. And what it's going to do is create a unique individual here, a unified individual, we're going to call it here, that it's going to bring together and it's going to link all of those records. It's going to bring together their email addresses, their emails, their addresses, their phone numbers, etc., into this specific set of data model objects. Okay, remember, we're going to keep that disabled and we're going to press save. Now, what this is going to do is allow us to create a job that we're going to schedule that's going to run and unify these identities as we come through this. Now, once this has been created, okay, we're not running it yet. Okay, the rules aren't running because we've not set the rules yet here. We first need to configure the matching rules inside of identity resolution. We can click on configure here and press next. Okay, this is just some instructions around criteria for matching. Okay, we're going to keep it very simple. Okay, we can write multiple matching rules here. You can have a lot of criteria. In this case, we're going to just click on configure. And here we're going to click on fuzzy name and normalized email. Okay, what this is going to do is match on first and last names that are similar, but it's going to take their email address, normalize it down to a string, and just match them across to make sure that the email addresses are exact matches. Okay, so we're looking for somewhat similar names and normalized email addresses. We're going to click next. And then you can set some additional match criteria here. We're going to keep all of the defaults though. Okay, so we're going to keep first name to fuzzy, last name to exact, and email to normalized and exact. And we can just press next here. Okay, we're going to keep all the default values there and press save. And that is what we do to configure our matching rules. Okay, I'm going to give everyone just a second to get back to this screen here. Okay, while this rule set starts to create. So now here, what you want to do is click on run rule set. Okay, if it's not visible here, you can press on this arrow and it may be hidden in the dropdown. I'm going to go ahead and click on run rule set. Okay, there is an error that appears here based on some of the pre-configuration that we've made, but that's fine. You can ignore that. Okay, it is just a bug currently in the UI. The rule set is publishing and will start to run. Now, bear in mind what this is doing is taking all of those contacts, all of the guests, and it's running them through that matching algorithm to see whether or not they match. And this job does take anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes. Okay, so what we're going to do is pause here, and we're going to jump into the world of Coral Clouds, and we're going to do just a tiny bit of configuration before we get into some of the AI capabilities, okay, in just a minute. I'm going to run through this pretty quickly, okay? This is not required for our AI exercises coming forward. So just a note to everyone, if you may have struggled or fallen behind or found some issues in the Data Cloud portion of the exercises, okay, they're not requirements for Prompt Builder and Copilot for the next part of the exercises. So don't worry, we're going to pivot in just a second, but I want to quickly show you how you can bring this data into CRM once we have a match. Okay, and we're going to do that by going into our Coral Clouds app here. Bear in mind, this is going to take some time to run. So we're just going to do some of the configuration, and I'll show you what it looks like afterwards towards the end of the workshop. Okay, so remember, we're going to go into the app launcher and open up the Coral Clouds app. Okay, and we're going to search for our contact, Sophia. Okay, you can click on Sophia's contact record here. And what you're going to see here is we have her contact profile card, which is just a custom component that we've linked up to some data cloud fields. Okay, and the records here. Okay, what we want to be able to do is show Sophia's list of reservations here on her profile page. Okay, if you click on setup, we're going to go ahead and go and edit this object. Okay, I'm going to show you quickly how to bring over those reservations into Salesforce so that you can bring them onto the page and use that data. Okay, and we're just going to click on edit object. Okay, what you're going to see here in the object manager are a couple of new tabs here. The first one here is around Data Cloud related lists, and the second one is around copying fields from Data Cloud. You can bring over related lists that are related to contacts into CRM directly. You can also copy fields from Data Cloud. So if we're calculating values, if we want to bring over some data from Data Cloud, you can copy that directly over to your records in CRM. That's something that's covered in the exercises later on in the workbook. But the first thing I want to show you is around Data Cloud enrichment quickly. We're just going to dismiss this and get started. Okay, I'm going to move slightly quickly through this, so please don't worry about following along. You can go through this configuration after the exercises today, because it's not going to change what we do for Prompt Builder and for Copilot in a minute. But we're going to click on New Data Cloud Related List, and here we can select which object we want to bring over. And in this instance, we want to bring over those reservations. Okay, it's going to take the reservations from that engagement object and allow us to surface them on our contact in CRM. Okay, we're going to ensure that this is enabled and controlled by parent permissions. And then it already knows that it's going to be connected to that unified individual we've just created. And that's it. I can go ahead and click on next. Okay, I'm going to add this to our contact layout, and I'm going to append it to existing related lists here and press next. Okay, that's all you have to do to connect this Data Cloud related list or reservations with CRM. Now, one last thing I want to show you, okay, don't worry about following along here. Please go and revisit this after the workshop today. I'm just going to go in and I'm going to edit this contact record page. And I want to show you that those reservations are now going to be available to us as a related list inside of Salesforce. And so I'm going to type in dynamic related lists here and drag this dynamic related list onto the page. Now, this allows us to write filters and queries to show more data than we need or that we can do within the record. Okay, the standard Data Cloud related lists for caching purposes only show records that occurred within the last 7 days, whereas the dynamic related list will allow you to see data from the entire lifetime of that object based on its criteria. And here I'm just going to select reservations. Remember, don't worry about following along here. Okay, you can go through this after the exercise today. Okay, I'm going to just add in some things like our check-in date. Okay, I'm going to add in our checkout date in our fields here. Okay, maybe our special requests. And you can see all of those reservation fields available here. Let's go ahead and say our reservation status. Okay, the last thing I need to do is add a filter here for the criteria. Okay, and we're just going to keep it simple. We're going to say creation date is not equal to blank. Okay, and we're going to leave that empty. because we want it to go and fetch all of the records. And this is some filter criteria that will go and pull everything. I'm going to press done here, and I'm going to save this page. Now, okay, the data is still syncing. Okay, our identity resolution is still running. So when we go back to this page, chances are there's not been enough time elapsed to see the reservations, but we will come back to this a little bit later, and I'll show you what this looks like after the fact, after we've done the full breadth of exercises. Okay, we're going to press pause on Data Cloud now. I'm sure, like me, my first time running through Data Cloud, okay, a lot of this is overwhelming, okay, and takes a lot of time to either get right based on some of the configuration, maybe some of the features you're not used to, but we will get there and you will continue to work through this as we go through. But we're going to pause on Data Cloud for a second. We're going to get into a little bit more familiar territory inside of CRM. And for that, I'm going to go back to slides for a minute, talk quickly about Prompt Builder, and get us into the hands-on exercises for Prompt Builder. Okay, Prompt Builder is our low-code, no-code, pro-code way of grounding generative AI prompts in with CRM data, okay, to create insights in your org for your users, for your customers that are backed by generative AI and allow you to really bring data and ground data into those prompts to get better responses, better answers from that large language model. Okay, Prompt Builder is available now. We have lots of customers using it already in production, innovating and exploring in their sandboxes and getting to know how Prompt Builder works. Okay, there are 4 different types of prompts currently that you can create. Okay, we're going to use a couple of them today in the examples and in the workshop, and there are even more that you can take home with you. But those types are sales emails. You can generate emails to be sent to your customers right from the Salesforce UI. Okay, you can use prompts to generate field values. We're going to do that in just a minute. Okay, you can write record summaries based off passing full records into a prompt to then use those values. And you can even create your own custom prompt templates through Flex templates, which I'll talk about in just a little bit. Okay. But what you can do currently is you can ground prompts with record data, with related lists, with flows, with Apex, with Data Cloud, with MuleSoft. There are so many ways that you can bring rich information into your prompts to get responses. And it's important to note that this is all backed by the trust layer. Okay. As we're sending prompts from anywhere in Salesforce, okay, they are going through the process of grounding with data in CRM, masking any PII. Okay, we're adding a set of prompt defense heuristics to those to make sure that no illicit responses are sent back from the large language model, and they're sent through our partner models, which I'll explain when we're in Prompt Builder, so that you can see how you can select and fine-tune which model you're selecting through that prompt. Okay, once the prompt has been response has been generated, it's going through a series of toxicity detection algorithms, data demasking, and then it's presented to your users. So just know that when we talk about AI, trust is our #1 value when it comes to everything we do at Salesforce, and that doesn't stop with generative AI. Okay, we're going to ensure that every prompt that gets sent through the trust layer is safe and secure and ready for your users. So let's go ahead with that, get back into the hands-on exercises. Okay, so let's go ahead and replace this screen. I've just seen through the chat, we have a few people coming through saying they're not seeing Amazon S3. Okay, make sure, #1, that your data kit is installed. So if we just revisit the documentation, make sure that you installed this data kit. Okay, you would have had to have installed the data kit to get to exercise 2. Okay, otherwise, make sure that you've made the connection to Amazon S3 in Data Cloud setup. Okay, ensure that when you're connecting that, you press save so that that connection is established and then becomes available to you in Data Cloud setup. But remember, we're pressing pause on Data Cloud right now. Okay, let's jump into Prompt Builder and learn a bit more about how we can bring prompts into this Coral Cloud experience to use generative AI effectively for your users. Okay, and we're going to start out by creating a field generation template. Okay, we're going to generate a field value for one of our records in Salesforce. And to do that, okay, I'd like everyone to go back into their Salesforce org. Okay, we're going to reset where we are. Okay, and we're going to go into Salesforce setup. Okay, so let's all navigate into Salesforce setup. I'll give everyone a minute to get there. And once we're in Salesforce setup, we're going to search for Einstein setup. Okay, if you have a production org, if you have a sandbox org and you want to use this capability, if you have licenses for it, wherever, you always have to turn on the connection to Einstein Generative AI. Okay, and so inside of setup, you're going to search for Einstein setup. Okay, we just have to turn it on. Okay, this is what allows us to make a connection to a large language model from your Salesforce org. Okay, this is crucial to ensure that the prompt builder will work in just a minute when we go back to that. So just give everyone a minute. We're on exercise 1 of our prompt builder hands-on experience. Okay, you're going to go into Einstein setup. Okay, and you're going to turn on Einstein. And once we're at this point, I'd like everyone to refresh your page. Okay, there's some stuff happening in the background. There's some new options in setup being added. Okay, you're going to refresh your page once you've turned on Einstein, and you're going to search for Prompt Builder. Okay, Prompt Builder is the tool, like I said a minute ago, that we're going to use to create prompts. Okay, if you were creating a prompt template from scratch, you can see here, you can select flex templates, record summaries, sales emails, field generation, etc. But we're not creating a new prompt today. Okay, we're going to work on some prompts that we've already pre-created in the org. And you'll see those down here in the list of prompt templates. Okay. In the documentation, what you're going to see is we have a prompt template here already created, generate experience description dash solution. Okay. This is already a pre-created prompt that we're going to be using to manage today. And so if you go and click that generate experience description prompt here, okay, it's going to open you into the prompt builder. And what you're going to see is this prompt template workspace that we can use to paste in prompts, to type prompts, to merge in CRM data, to generate responses. Now, for the exercises today, we're just going to copy and paste from the documentation. And so for this first prompt, you can go ahead and click on this copy button here. Okay, and it's going to copy this prompt. Okay, and we're just going to paste it here in the prompt template workspace. And just to show you a little bit about what's happening here, we can see here, we're going to give the prompt context of who we are. You're a marketer at this company. Okay, all of our orgs in here, by the way, they're not named Coral Clouds. They have a name called Trailforce based on how we created them. But you will see it's going to merge in the company name in the org. So based on your organization name and setup. Okay, we're also passing in an experience record. Okay, remember experiences in this context are activities that you're signing up for, like snorkeling or a hiking trip or some sort of off-roading expedition, etc. Okay, we're going to generate a description of those experiences for our record pages. And so we're asking the large language model to write a marketing description for the experience below, and we're merging in fields directly from that record. Okay, that happens from this resources panel. You can see here that we can take flows, Apex classes, we can bring data from the organization, data about the current user, and data about the object that we're targeting here. In this case, we're targeting an experience record, and you can see here we have all of the fields available from our experience. Okay. Now, in order to test this out, okay, first thing we have to do is save this as a new version. Okay, so I hope we've all pasted in our prompt here. Okay, we need to save this as here a new version of the prompt. That's it. You just have to click on save as new version, and it's going to open that up for us there. And then we can search for an experience record here so that we can bring it in. Now, in this case, you can click on the list, you can start typing, but we're going to search for the Aqua Fitness in Paradise record. Okay, that's one of the excursions that Coral Clouds offers. And then we can click on preview. Okay, what this is going to do when I click preview is it's going to take this Salesforce record, okay, this experience custom object record here. It's then grounding it, this prompt with that data. And so you can see here, we have our prompt that's taken the company name. This is the company name in our org. Okay, and it's taken the details from the experience. We have the experience name here that's matched up to the experience name merge field, our type, our location, the duration, and the activity. And look, it's written a description for us so that we can add that to the record. It's a great shortcut for your users when they're creating records. For someone who may not be as creative, it's a great way for us to bring that data in here as well and help write some of these descriptions. Okay. Once we've written that, okay, I want us all to click on activate. Okay, we're going to actually go and use this prompt. Okay, once you have generated that response, maybe you've tweaked it a little bit. Okay, we're going to click on activate. So I'm going to give everyone just a couple of seconds here to catch up to this. Please remember, if you have any questions, ask them in the chat. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know, is this a little bit easier to grasp and get through than some of the data cloud content? Okay, this is a pilot for us, and we're really learning to improve the experience for the next set of people who come and attend this virtual workshop with us. So I'm going to give everyone just a second there to get through that. Okay, now for everyone who has gone through and activated this template, okay, the next thing we're going to do is go into the app launcher, okay, and we're going to go back into the Coral Clouds app. Okay, remember, it's important that you activated the prompt there. And we're going to go into our experience records here. Okay, because we just selected that Aqua Fitness in Paradise prompt within Prompt Builder, okay, the record should be here for us, or you can search for that Aqua Fitness in Paradise record in search. What we want to do though is we want to take that prompt, okay, and we want to bind it to the page here in our Coral Clouds app. And what we're going to do here is we're going to click on the setup icon here, and we're going to edit the page. Okay, this is what's going to take us into the Lightning App Builder. And what we're going to now do is click on this description field. Okay, what you'll see here is, it's probably already popping up for you as well, is we can now assign Einstein Generative AI prompt templates directly to field values within the Lightning App Builder. And so I have that generate experience description field. That's exactly what we're going to do with it. We're going to generate an experience description for this page. Now, this does require you to use the new dynamic page layouts so that you can bind that to the field directly. Okay, and that's really easy to upgrade. We've got loads of documentation on how you can do that if you're not already using dynamic pages. And so you can see here, we've got our description, and we've bound that Einstein Generative AI prompt to it. It must be active. So if anyone's having any issues around seeing the prompt there, okay, you must have had to have activated it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and save this page, and let's go check it out. Okay, back on our experience page, you will notice a difference. Next to that experience field here, we've got a little star here. That tells us that it's enabled with generative AI. And we can click on to edit this field here. And when we click on this button, this is our Einstein generations button, we can go ahead and generate a field value. And what it's going to do is it's taking this record, okay, it's taking our prompt, it's grounding the prompt in this record context, sending it through the trust layer and bringing it back to your user. And you can see here, it took seconds to make that round trip. Okay, it grounded in the CRM record, sent it through the trust layer, and it's displayed here for you. And it's taken and generated a description for us for this record right here in the UI. Now, you can communicate with Einstein to make it a little bit shorter or change the tone. And so in this case, I can say, can you make it shorter? And it's going to take that, it's going to pass both of those through into the large language model and get that back here. Okay, we can go ahead and click use, and it is going to bring this right in here for us so that we can bring that in our record context and press save. Okay, that's just the first example of one way that you can really impact users with Prompt Builder and bring that capability into your org. Okay, there is another example we're going to quickly go through right now inside of Prompt Builder, where I can show you another way to expand on this through field generation. Okay, and so we just completed exercise 1 inside of our prompt builder module. Okay, exercise 2 also takes care of field generation. Okay, we're not going to run through this today for timing constraints to make sure we get to some of the Copilot content. Okay, but in exercise 2, you can go ahead and check this out too. What we're going to do is actually bring in data from a related list so that you can then go through and bring in additional data from that record without having to write any code, write a flow, and bring in an entire related list directly to this prompt. Okay, so we're not going to go through exercise 2 today, but just keep in mind that's available for you if you want to learn about bringing related lists into prompts. We're going to fast forward to exercise 3. Okay, and I'd like everyone, don't worry about following along with me through the flow. Okay, we'll follow along when we get back to the prompt, but I just want to show you a little bit about how we can bring flow data into our prompts as well. Okay, and so watch along here. Don't worry about following along this step. There's nothing to change in this part of the exercise. But I want everyone to take a look here and open up Setup. Okay, and in Setup, we're going to go into Flow. And inside of Flow, we've created a couple of flows for the workshop today. Okay, the first one I want to look at here is our Add Experiences to Prompt flow. Okay, this flow we're going to use to ground our prompt in more and more data. Okay, and what you'll see here is this flow uses a new type of flow. Okay, it is a prompt template triggered flow. And we can select the type of prompt that we want to target here inside a flow. Okay, this is deployed in all of your environments for you to check out later. Okay, and what you'll see here is we can then select that email is being sent to a contact, and we'll have all of that information in this flow for us to access. You'll see here, we're just going to query some of the experience records from Salesforce, and we want to take a list of experiences from the prompt so that we can grab them, from the contact to grab them and ground our prompt in more and more information. And from there, we're going to loop through each of those experiences and add them to prompt instructions. Okay, this is new for anyone who's worked on Flow before. The prompt instruction element allows you to bring together text to pass back into a prompt in the output. And so what we're doing in this loop is we're getting each of those experiences that are suggested for a person, okay, and we're going to loop through each of them and add them into the output of this for the prompt. Okay, that's all I need to show you here is we're triggering this flow from a prompt, and we're going to add a list of experiences into the response that's sent back to the prompt for grounding. This is for complex business cases where you want to bring in more defined sets of data for grounding. If you want to create highly dynamic and customized data sets for grounding, this is a great place to do that. So now, let's go back over to Prompt Builder. Okay, I'd like everyone to head towards step 2 in exercise 3. Okay, we're going to modify a sales email template to ground in Flow. Okay, so inside of our org, okay, I'd like everyone to go back into Prompt Builder. We're going to do this a couple of times. Okay, we're going to go back into Prompt Builder. Okay, and we're going to open up right here, it's the welcome email for upcoming trip prompt. Okay, it's the type sales email, and so we're going to use this to generate an email. Okay, once again, we're going to go back over to our workbook and we're going to copy that prompt over. And then we're going to paste it into the prompt template workspace. But you'll notice here, I've not brought in those interests for you. Okay, once you paste this in and you go into your resources, what you're going to see is we have a flow here already deployed. It's already active for you to add experiences to the prompt. Go ahead and delete that placeholder there. And what that's going to do is take our contact from the prompt. Okay, it's going to pass it into the flow, and the flow is going to create those prompt instructions and send them back to us for grounding. You will notice that we have hard coded the check-in date here. Okay, there's an optional exercise at the end of the prompt builder section that shows you how we can bring this check-in date over from Data Cloud. Okay, but first, let's go ahead and test this prompt. Okay, we're going to go ahead and click Save As. Remember, we've got to save it as a new version first. Okay, once that version's created, we can then ground it. Now, in this instance, we're going to be targeting that Sophia, Sofia, Sophia Rodriguez, as our recipient. Okay, I'm going to run this quickly. I'm going to show it to you, and then I'm going to pause for a minute to give you time to get to this point so that you can see where this is coming together. And so once again, it's getting the context of the record. Okay, it's passing it through the trust layer and coming up with a resolution here. And what you will see here inside of this is, okay, it is passing in the guest's interests from that flow. And so it's able to query all of the experiences that a person might be interested in and return them into this prompt. Okay, you will see here, it's not pasted this over correctly from the prompt. So as a quick fix in this instance, I'm going to go ahead and let's delete this. Okay, if you're also having that issue here, go into your resources. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and get the sender name here from our valuable. This will show you once again how to pull in those merge fields from our org. I'm going to run that once again. So I'm going to give everyone just a minute, okay, to get up to this step before we activate it. There you go. That's brought over. Obviously, it's not a person's name here. We've not configured that in the org setup, but you'll see here it's merging in those values. And the last thing you're going to have to do is activate this. Okay, so I'd like everyone to activate this prompt. Okay, so before we exit this page, everyone, make sure you click on Activate. We want to make sure that this prompt is active so that I can show you what it looks like in the UI. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go back into our Coral Clouds app. And this time, we're going to search for our contact, Sophia. Sophia Rodriguez here. And in this, okay, we're going to click on the Activity tab. Okay, this is where our sales email templates are going to surface. Okay, I can click on New Email here. And what you will see here is if your user has the correct permissions, there is now a Draft with Einstein button here in the email composer. Okay, and I can either draft it from scratch, so I can give Einstein instructions, or I can use one of my custom templates. You can see here we have our custom template that we just activated, that welcome email for upcoming guest. What it's going to do is analyze that request. I note that this is being blocked by my screen here, so let me just fix this for you real quick and get rid of my view here. Okay, you should see me in full screen now on the window. What it's done here is pulled through and generated an email based off of those experiences. And so it's composed that for us. You can see here, it's giving us a little bit of description around what those experiences are, what I might be interested in, and to use that template to draft for us, and we can send it directly to our contact here. Okay, and so with that, that is how we use those sales email templates within our org. We're going to do one last prompt builder exercise here before we move on to Copilot. Let me just get my screen back into place here so that you can see me there. We're back on picture in picture. I want to show you sort of my favorite part around prompt builder and prompt templates. And I think if you're an admin, if you're a developer, all of the stuff we've been doing is kind of cool. We can ground the prompts in data. We can use them in emails and fields. But really, I want to use prompts anywhere. I want to use a prompt in Apex. I want to use a prompt in Flow. I want to put it anywhere on the page, anywhere in my app. And that's what's possible with Flex templates. Okay, Flex templates allow you to take prompts and address them from anywhere. They allow you to customize them even more than you could if it were for a field generation template or a different kind of prompt template. And so what we're going to do is take an existing Flex template, and I'm going to show you how it can be used within your Salesforce org. Okay, so we're going to go back over to Setup. Okay, and in Setup, once again, we're going to go to Prompt Builder. You should be really used to this by now. And here, we're going to click on the Generate Personalized Schedule prompt down here at the bottom. You'll see it's a Flex template. Okay, this template allows you to bring in multiple objects if you like. In this case, we're just using a single object, our contact. Bring in multiple data sets like before, ground it, and then execute it from just about anywhere. Okay, and so if we go back over to the documentation, we're going to go ahead and copy our Generate Personalized Schedule prompt here from our prompt template workspace. Okay, and we're going to paste that in. And we're going to go ahead and, hold on, let me make sure we're in the right place. Flex template, personalized schedule. Yep, okay. And we're going to save it as. Okay, so we want to save this as a new version because we want to test it right now before we add in some more data. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and type in Sophia here, our contact record, and preview this. Okay. We've not provided very much information. Okay, we've only given this prompt our first name, our organization name, and we've not sent it through any of the activities. And what you're going to see here is that in the response, okay, the large language model guessed, okay, it hallucinated, as you would say, okay, it made up 3 experiences and times and information and passed them into this prompt. Okay, and that's what we really want to avoid by grounding the prompt with data. Okay, when you provide a prompt with the right context information, okay, it doesn't have an opportunity to hallucinate. Okay, it's going to use the data you give it and learn from that in creating that generation. So there's no opportunity for it to just make up a list of activities. And to do that, we've deployed some code into the org. Okay, what we've done is we've used an invocable method. Okay, we're not going to go through the code in the IDE here in this experience, but I'm going to show you what it's doing. So what we have deployed in the org is an Apex class called Personalized Guest Experiences. Okay, and in this invocable method, you specify a capability type for this. And so you can specify that it's a Flex template, and you can pass in the name of that prompt template. In this case, it's Generate Personalized Schedule. And from there, you have an input, okay, and an output that we're going to pass in and out of this prompt. And what it's going to do is take that response and allow us to pull everything from there and pass it in. Now, there's also an experience sessions controller here in the org that's going to go through and get all of the sessions that a contact might be related to or interested in. It's going to grab the available times so that we know and we can tell the large language model that aqua fitness is happening at 10 a.m. Hiking is happening at 11. The swimming pool party is happening at 2, etc. Okay, we're doing that with an Apex because the logic is a little bit more complex, and I want to show you how we can bring that Apex class into the prompt as well. And so if we go into our personalized schedule prompt here, we can then take our Apex class here as personalized guest experiences, and we can pass that Apex class right into the prompt and ground it with even more complex logic and data. All we have to do is save and preview this, and now it's going to ground it with the CRM data directly from the record, from the user, and it's going to take that contact and pass it into Apex. And what you will see here is it's going to pass an array directly from Apex that has the experience name, the date, the duration, the time, everything that we need to know about that experience to pass into the prompt. Now, prompts understand machine readable code. And so we can just pass that JSON in to our resolution directly from Apex. And the prompt knows how to process that. And so if you can see here, what it's been able to do is create a list of those for us and use a little bit of logic to determine which order it should put things in, what it can put through. And sometimes it has varying quality. Now, if you've been attuned to what's been happening with large language models and generative AI, you'd know that a lot of companies are releasing more and more versions of models. Okay. And as you start to see them be released, we can then start to bring them into Salesforce. And so, for example, we have our own now implementation of GPT-4 Omni, which will provide a faster and better response in most instances. And so we can change that model here in the model type, and we can save and preview that with that new model version. And what you'll see is it's going to take it, it's going to generate the response, ground the data, and pass back sometimes a much more detailed response, sometimes just that personalized list, and it will then change based on the model that we're passing in through. So, last thing we're going to do, okay, we're going to activate this prompt. Okay, I'd like everyone to stay on this page for a second, and I'm going to show you something in Flow. Okay, we don't have to make any changes here. We don't have to modify anything because it's already deployed, but I want to show you how we execute that prompt in a Flow. Okay, and I'm going to go into here, our prompt here in our screen flow. Okay, and we're going to click on our generate personalized schedule flow. Where are we? There we go, our personalized schedule flow. Okay, this flow has already been created. It's already active, so don't worry about jumping in here. But what I want to show you is that we're actually invoking that prompt right here inside of Flow. So if we click on this element, you will see here, it is attached to our generate personalized schedule flow or prompt here. And what we're going to do is get a contact in our flow. We're going to pass that contact into our prompt, and we're going to ground it, which means we can use this in a screen flow and deploy it anywhere. So if everyone can go back into your window with your prompt, okay, make sure once again it's active. We're going to go back over to the Coral Clouds app and to Sophia. Okay, and we're going to go into Sophia's record here. Now you'll see here we already have an action on the page called personalized schedule. If we click on this button, what it's going to do is launch the screen flow we were just looking at. Okay, it's going to ground it with the contact. It's going to query the contact from the page. Okay, it's going to pass that contact record into the prompt, and it's going to bring that prompt response directly into Flow so that we can then display that personalized schedule for our user, which means we can take that generative AI capability, that prompt, and bring it right into the UI for anyone who's accessing this page. Now, think about all the use cases. Think about all the places you could bring that prompt into your flows. In the same way, you can bring that prompt into code as well. Now, you can execute that prompt template from the Connect API anywhere using the Einstein Generative AI connector for that prompt API. So I'm sure there are many use cases. If you have any really cool ideas that just come to the top of your head, throw them in the chat. We'd love to hear them. Ways that you may already be using prompts by bringing them into your flows and your code, or if you have some ideas that you think would be useful, it'd be great for us to see what you're thinking. Maybe this has inspired you a little bit around where you can use prompts. Okay, we're going to pause there from our prompt template exercises, but like I said, after the exercise today, if you want to go back, you can see how you can also use Apex to ground that prompt to make sure all of the dates are accurate, okay, and bring that data cloud data directly into your prompt template. But for the time being, we're going to jump over to Copilot. Okay, I'm going to jump over to slides for a minute. Okay, we're going to power through these slides so we can get through the rest of the hands-on part of this exercise today, and I can show you a little bit more about Copilot. So Copilot is our conversational assistant that we've built that uses generative AI to help bring that assistant into Salesforce. Before we get into Copilot, though, I just want to reaffirm how Copilot works. Okay. Now, this isn't a new concept to applications. Okay. There are lots of open source frameworks and companies who have been building like this for a couple of years now since generative AI has really come into the mainstream. And I want you to think about it this way. Okay. At the heart of Copilot is a planner service. And you're giving your Copilot the ability to learn skills and actions. So, for example, if your Copilot knows that it can do 20 different things and you ask it a question, it's going to pick which actions it needs to complete that task. So, if you're asking Copilot to summarize a case, it knows that it probably needs to query a case with this action and summarize the case with this action. Okay, if you ask it to book a tropical snorkeling experience per se. Copilot has access to these actions. Okay, it takes your prompt and it's turning it into instructions so that it knows that it needs to do action 15, action 2, action 13, action 17. Okay, this is built in a way that those actions that you're seeing here on the left hand side, those are just pieces of configuration that already exist within Salesforce. We have a number of standard actions already available around querying data, summarizing records, but you can already use flows, you can use Apex classes, you can use prompt templates, all to give your Copilot more ability. And even sooner, coming in the next release, are external services. So your Copilot can even call out to third-party APIs. But instead of continuing to talk to you about how it works, I'm going to first show you. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring back up our window here for the workshop. Okay, we are now on Copilot. Okay, and hold on, let's swap this over. The wrong one here. Okay, here we are in the correct window. Okay, we're going to start with exercise 1, getting started with Copilot. Okay, and the first thing we all need to do together, okay, is we need to go back into setup once again. Okay, so I want everyone to get back into Salesforce setup. Okay, back in setup, and you're going to search for Copilot. Okay, and the first thing we need to do here, remember we're in setup, we need to search for Copilot, we need to turn it on. Now this can take some time to provision everything that it needs, so it needs to provision a service onto your org for managing Copilot. But what you'll see here is we now have Einstein Copilot created down here at the bottom of the page. Okay, and then we can click on Copilot here. What you're going to see is just a metadata definition for your Copilot, some details around Copilot, the actions that it has access to, okay, your standard system messages so that you can control what Einstein says to users when it's opened, what it says when there's an error, etc. But what we need to do first is open up Copilot in the builder. Okay, this Copilot builder is where you're going to build, configure, and test your Copilots. But first, I want to show you how Copilot works. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and activate mine now. It'd be good if everyone clicks on activate. Okay, do not worry about following along here. Okay, you're going to rejoin me back in the Copilot builder. So I'd like everyone to stay on this Copilot builder page while I demonstrate to you a little bit about how Copilot works. Okay, I'm going to go back into the Coral Cloud app and I'm going to refresh this page. And you'll see here, now that Copilot is active, I now have this button here to access Einstein Copilot on my page. Please feel free to go try this out later. Okay, right now I want to focus on showing you what this experience looks like so that we can go in and customize it. But I'm going to open up Einstein here. Okay, and from this sidebar, you can pin it if you want a little bit more screen real estate or you want to move it around. Okay, you can expand it out to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to ask Copilot a question. Okay, I'm going to ask Copilot if there are currently any high priority cases open. Okay, what Copilot is doing here is it's taking that prompt. When I say, are there any high priority cases open? Copilot is taking those words and creating a set of instructions so that it knows what to do. So it's going and it's turning that into a query. So it can then search across the Salesforce org and see if we have any high priority cases open, okay, in Copilot. Then I'm going to ask Copilot to summarize the first case in that list. Okay, what it's going to do, I hope, is understand what I'm asking. I'm saying, you know, that previous message you sent that had a list of cases, can you summarize the first one of those cases for me? And there you go. You can see here Copilot was able to take that first case here about the cancellation and summarize it for me so that I can get a quick glance at what is happening without actually going into the record, trying to understand what's happening myself. Now, to continue this chain, I can say, Copilot, can you give me an overview of the contact? And what it should be able to do is take a look at this text body, identify that there's a contact record in it, and return it back to me. And so it's taking, in this case, it wasn't able to do it, going and grabbing an overview of that contact. But what you will see here is that if Copilot can't identify what you're talking about, it knows that I'm trying to get access to a contact. we can then manually take that input and provide it. And so if I submit that record name here, it's going to go and query across our context. Now, we're going to be able to fully analyze what's happening, why it's happening in the Copilot builder in just a minute. But what I wanted to show you was how it's taking that information and summarizing it. The last thing I want to do is ask it a question. Okay, how many contacts do we have in the state of Minnesota? This sort of shows off Copilot's ability to aggregate. And so what I'm hoping it will do is it will write an aggregate query across Salesforce and count how many contacts we have in the state of Minnesota. And it's been able to pull those, write a response for me, and show me that there are 19 contacts available. Okay, so we've asked Copilot to do a few things. Some it's good at, some it's not good at. As a user, you'll slowly learn how that works. And then I'll explain a little bit more about some approaches to implementing Copilot in a minute. I want to show you how it's all working behind the scenes first. And we're going to do that in Copilot Builder. So hopefully everyone has stayed in this Copilot Builder screen. Okay. What we're here in Copilot Builder looking at is number one, on our left-hand side of the screen, we have our actions. Okay. Copilot currently can identify records. It can summarize records. It can run aggregate queries. Okay. It can draft or revise email. It can identify objects by name, and it can query records. Note, some of these are still in beta. We're still working on the usability and the flexibility of these. So sometimes you will see some edge cases, like for example, when we asked it to identify Sophia, it wasn't able to write the query correctly. Okay, it wasn't able to parse the body. And so you will see some of the actions are still in beta, but we're continuing to improve them as time goes on. But what I want us to all do is take that first question that we were asking Copilot in our instructions. Okay, and we're going to scroll all the way down in our docs to step 3, work with actions in Copilot Builder. I want everyone to copy this text here. Are there any high priority cases open? Let's go ahead and ask that inside of the builder. And what you will see here is what's actually happening behind the scenes so that you can build your actions, so that you can trust that this is working as you start to deploy Copilot and experiment with it. And what you'll see here is Copilot has created a plan. You can see a history of when the session started, the session ID, the prompt that was sent over. So are there any high priority cases? You can see Copilot selecting the action. So it selected that query records action, and it's generated a response. Now, as an admin or developer, it's important to see what's coming in and out of these actions. And so you can audit here what's happened. You can see it's taken our prompt and turned that into a query. So in this case, find all high priority cases that are open. And then it's presented an array of cases back to the user. It's been just fine. It's been able to do that. And we can see the response that's come back. We can see here the message that's been passed back to Copilot. We can see the message and audit what's been sent here as an admin. Now, if we ask it the second question, so in this case, can you summarize the case for me? Okay, we can go ahead and paste that back here. And what it's going to do is take an additional step, take that prompt, okay, and it's going to pass in this message as well as the prompt and try and summarize that first case for us. And so what we can see here is we have a new plan that's been created. Okay, we've asked it to summarize a case for me. Okay, and it's picked that summarized record for us here, and it's passed in the record ID from that previous response. So it knew to go and grab the first row of that array, grab the record ID, and then summarize that for us here. Next, let's go ahead and take that third prompt. Okay, can you give me an overview of the contact? Okay, and let's see what's happening here on the back end. So it's going to analyze the request. It's going to try and identify the contact from this message and then summarize that contact for us. And so let's just see, it's going, it's thinking, it's creating the instructions in the plan. And you'll see in this instance, it has identified it. So as you can see, sometimes the responses can be hit and miss. We're really working on the usability and the accuracy of these. But remember, we are using a large language model to create these instructions and to pull these out. So sometimes there can be a varied response. And here you can see we've got that record ID, we've identified it, and we've been able to create that response back for the user. Okay. How can you, as an admin or a developer, make Copilot smarter by giving it more capabilities? Okay, I'm going to give you an example of that now, and we're going to extend Copilot with a flow action. Okay, we have a flow here that we've created. I'm not going to worry about going in and showing you the flow at this time because the most important information is here in the documentation. Okay, inside of our flow are a set number of resources that we've created. Okay, remember resources are our inputs and our outputs from the flow. Okay, this flow is incredibly simple. All it's doing is taking in a contact ID and a dollar amount, and it's creating a custom object record for us. We want to give Copilot the ability to grant a resort credit to our contacts. Okay, so I want to be able to ask Copilot, hey, can you give Sophia a $100 credit? Can you give Sophia a $300 credit to our resort? And I'd love Copilot to be able to do that. And the reason that that is a good use case is we're finding customers become very successful with identifying uses for Copilot that save 1 minute, save 3 minutes, save 5 minutes for their users, and roll out those small capabilities to their customers and to their end users to save them time throughout the day. So, in the context of Coral Clouds, we thought it would be great to create a shortcut for our users to grant resort credits to customers using Copilot. And so this flow takes in that contact ID, the amount, and returns a credit record to show us that it's been created for the contact. And now I'm going to show you how we actually give Copilot this ability through step 2 inside of exercise 2 here. Okay. We're going to go back. I'm going to go ahead and let's deactivate our Copilot if you've already activated it. Okay, just for good measure, we're going to go back from that back button into setup. Okay, and inside of Salesforce setup, we're going to search for Copilot. And what you'll see here is we have Einstein Copilots, but I want you to look at Einstein Copilot actions and click on it. And what you'll see here is a list of all the actions that Copilot has access to. In order to create a new action, you just have to click New Copilot Action, and you can select from the type currently, like I said, of Apex, Flows, or Prompt Templates. In this case, we're just going to click on a flow. And what you'll see here is any flows that you already have that are auto-launched are already available. And in this instance, we're going to select the issue resort credit flow. Okay, not the bulk resort credit flow. That's going to be one of our optional exercises. We're going to select the issue resort credit flow. And we're going to click on next. Now, what you're seeing here is the definition for this Copilot action. Okay, we have first Copilot instructions. Okay, these instructions are required to teach Copilot what it is doing with this flow. In this case, it's going to issue that resort credit to a contact. And so Copilot knows you're giving it this skill. We then have a number of inputs that have been added. In this case, we have the amount. Okay, Copilot needs to know what amount of money it needs to give to the person. And so we're going to require this. And then we want to require a contact ID. We need to know who the contact is that we're going to give the resort credit to. Now, with the outputs, okay, here we have the ID of the credit record that was created. We're going to click on Show in Conversation because we need to pass this back into Copilot once it's been created. And that's it. Okay. We're going to keep all these values the same. I just needed you to click on Require Input and Show in Conversation on both of these, and you can click Finish. And that's it. Your Copilot action is now available to use. And so if you then, in the left-hand side, click on Einstein Copilot, okay, you can go back into your Copilot, and we're going to go back into the Copilot builder. I'll give everyone a minute to get back in there. If you're already here, though, you can click on your Copilot action library, and you will see here that your issue resort credit action is right there, already available for you. Okay, you can click on the chevron here to assign it to Copilot, and that's it. So if you're just catching up here, we've got our Copilot action library. We can click on Add here, and it's going to send that right over to our Copilot. And Copilot now has that skill. And so we can now go back over to our docs, okay? If you want to grab that prompt here, we've got it here right at the bottom under step 4. Issue a $100 resort credit to our contact named Sophia Rodriguez. Okay, what we want it to do, fingers crossed, is identify the contact. So we want it to find Sofia Rodriguez. We want it to identify the record ID, the dollar amount, and we want it to trigger our flow right here from Copilot. So first off, I will say when we added an action, sometimes you do have to refresh this conversation preview. I had the little error there. So if you have that little error, refresh it so that it has access to that action. Paste in your prompt and submit it. And so what it's going to do is it's going to take our prompt. Okay, it's going to match it up to those actions. Remember, it now has that new action there available. And look it did it for us. So you can see here, it identified Sophia. Okay, it found Sophia's record ID. And then it knew that it needed to pick our flow. Okay, it passed in the $100 resort credit and it passed in the contact ID. And then it let us know that that was created. Okay, it's that simple to extend Copilot with your own custom actions. Now, because we're tight on time for today, we only have about 3 or 4 minutes left for the exercises. I'm going to quickly show you one last thing. Please don't worry about following along. This is all available in the documentation for you here. I'm just going to add in an Apex action because that's available too. And so here, I'm going to add in an Apex action, and we're going to select on our check weather action here and press next. Now, again, we've got our input that's required. I'm going to pass back some prettier instructions into Copilot. So I've written in the Apex class a temperature description that we're going to pass back to our users. Because if you're at the front desk, maybe you want to know what the weather's going to be like tomorrow to suggest the right experiences. This will give Copilot the ability to use a third-party API to call out and check the weather for tomorrow. And so if I go back into the Copilot builder here, I'm going to open up the builder. I'm going to give it access to this new action. And then I can ask Copilot to let me know what the weather is going to be like tomorrow. So let's go ahead and paste that in here. Let's see, there we go. What's the weather like on August 15th? I'm going to send that through. And what Copilot should be doing is, it's going to fail, apologies, because I didn't refresh this. Let's refresh that one more time. Option 8, oops, pass that in. Send that through. And what it's going to do is take my prompt, turn it into instruction, and try and identify the next steps there so that it can do that. And what you'll see here is it's taken my prompt. It knew exactly already that it needed to go into Apex. It turned my date into a date that was acceptable via the API. It pulled the temperature and was able to give Copilot the ability to talk to a third-party API and bring that response back to me as well. Okay, that is how you get started with bringing your own custom actions to Copilot. Okay, and just to go through everything we went through today, just as a quick recap, okay, we got started with configuring Data Cloud, but really, that just scratches the surface. Okay, all of these exercises in whole take about 3 hours to go through, but you can go through accessing that data from Salesforce, okay, creating calculated insights, even querying that Data Cloud data in Flow. Okay, you can go through some additional exercises in Prompt Builder around grounding this data with Data Cloud, and you can go back into Copilot and you can extend it with custom actions, with prompts, even with MuleSoft. Okay, so everyone know that this resource is available for you and you have access to this org for 5 days. We're going to go through a link real quick as well for feedback, but know that you have resources available on the site here as well. So as we finish up for today, I'm going to go back over 2 slides for just a second. Okay, we have a number of resources available for you in this documentation site, as well as a survey. Okay, we're going to drop the link to the survey in the chat. Okay, you have just been through an intensive, nearly 2 hours of hands-on experiences that we've really pushed through. Keep in mind, normally we will take about 6 hours to go through everything. So you have probably learned a lot today. Please give us your feedback. It's important to note that we really want to roll out these virtual workshops in the right way. And as you, the first people who have attended this today in this new shortened version, we want your feedback around how we can improve it, how we can make it better, and what you thought of each of the sessions. So please grab this link in the chat, scan it with your phone, grab that QR code. Okay, it's very important that we get your feedback. Okay, I want to thank you all very much for attending today. Thank you to our moderators who have been live with you in the chat. Thank you to Christoph, who jumped on and did that opening for us. We think it's great to get everyone hands-on with this capability, get their feedback, and really see what it's like to bring Data Cloud and AI to our core audiences. Thank you all very much for attending today, and we hope to see you on the next one.